Totally
then,
get it.
you know, coming in here, Mark, the first thing he says is, "This is a casting couch session." That's all sets the mood, right? So.
Yeah.
Thank you for joining us today. We're at Amager Bio, and we're joined by Jake from Periphery. And welcome to you, Jake.
Thank you. Yeah, glad to be here. I love Copenhagen. Copenhagen?
Copenhagen, yeah.
Yeah, all right, cool.
Yeah, you've been here before, haven't you?
A couple times, yeah. One time I had an entire beer thrown at me here, so I'll never forget that.
Like from an audience?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's like a thing now. Like people like throwing stuff at us, but no, I'm just kidding. It was fun. Good stuff. Yeah.
Well, you were like, when was the first time you were here?
It's hard to say for sure, but I think like 2012.
Ah,
Yeah,
okay.
maybe 2011, but probably 2012, 2013 maybe, in that stretch of time.
Yeah. I remember seeing you guys. I think it was the Periphery 2 tour. This is a long time
Yeah,
ago.
so probably 2012.
Yeah, sounds about right. So let's get into the meat of this. There's one very, very important question. I know this has been discussed in some of the documentaries as well. What are the video games we're playing on the tour bus this time?
Oh, wow. Everyone's playing something different this time.
Really?
I somehow managed to get Starfield to work on a Steam Deck, which, if anybody at Bethesda is listening, make it work on Steam Deck. Optimize it, please. I had to do all these tricks to get it to run. Let's see. What's Mark playing? Mark is playing Risk of Rain. Seen him play that a lot. And Spencer is playing a Souls-like type game, I'm sure. And not sure what Misha's playing, even though he's told me a million times. But everybody's starting to get a Steam Deck. Like that's kind of like the system of choice these days because it's so awesome. But yeah, so just PC games, you know?
Okay.
Yeah.
I knew for a while you were playing Destiny, and then there was Hades.
Yeah, Hades was a big one on the Periphery 5 cycle. We were still kind of playing Destiny, but the expansions lost me, like story-wise. I never really particularly enjoyed the story just because I thought it was kind of convoluted, kind of cheesy, but the game Destiny plays so good. It's like one of the best feeling games I've ever got to play, so I would play it strictly for how good it felt rather than just paying attention to anything that's going on in it. And I just I have a millennial attention span with things.
I think we can relate.
Yeah.
And it looks like a Jen's music video.
Oh, it does.
Yeah.
The visuals are fantastic, right?
Yeah, totally.
Absolutely, Dreaming City, holy, all about that. Which actually sort of because there's a lot of the music that's going on in Destiny. Actually, the huge orchestration and all of this. It got me thinking that you're all doing separate side projects and stuff sort of intertwined with each other and apart from each other. All of these sort of directions. With all of that, is that an outlet for stuff that is not usable in Periphery? Or is it you gather inspiration doing these things and bring it into Periphery?
I think those things wouldn't exist without kind of having Periphery as this sort of body that it all orbits around. So I kind of got my start in electronic music by doing synths and the intros and outros of songs and on the earlier albums, and that kind of got me momentum on doing my own stuff. And then me and Misha worked on an electronic music record together because of that, and everybody kind of chips in on the interludes and all the stuff that isn't necessarily the main Periphery stuff. So and Mark and Misha have a project called Haunted Shores, which is a more extreme version of Periphery, but it's more death metal, black metal influenced. And Spencer has a couple projects that are amazing. He's got King Mothership, which is just a very theatric kind of it's rock. It's hard rock, but it's way more progressive. And he has another project called Nick Mystery, which is kind of synth wavy pop, and it's really interesting to kind of see where everybody goes when they're not working on Periphery. So, but without Periphery, you kind of that's the main outlet for everyone. So, but it's nice. I need to have like strictly electronic music outlet, because in Periphery we all write together and everything is very democratic. So we'll like kind of see how everybody's feeling about certain sections, and if like a majority isn't like feeling something, then it gets tossed out the window and we start fresh, or we think about what we're writing. Whereas the approach, speaking of my project solely, is like I just kind of put what I feel, and I don't really think about it too much. It's not as deliberate. It's more of a stream of consciousness. So that's what I like about it, and it kind of I don't have to check with anybody. Is like, is this cool? Is this working? It's just kind of like if it sounds like it's working to me, then I'm happy.
Do you ever get caught in a spiral where you just never really, you're not satisfied with what you're making, and since you're the only creative in that space, does it cause you to like not release stuff like more often than you would with Periphery?
Yeah, so that's why I still like kind of do albums and don't really mess with singles, even though in that genre of music, that's kind of like the bread and butter, is just kind of releasing a song every couple weeks, couple months. I still stick with albums because it means that I can spend a lot of time working on a body of music, and I've gotten better about that, but like if you look on my hard drive, there's just so many unfinished ideas and songs that I'm just like, it sounded cool when I was working on it, but now that I'm listening to it now, it's like, this is not good. So I constantly do that. So I'm working on that. I'm getting better at that. That's kind of like something I'm focusing on now.
I feel like that is you're speaking to the mind of every musician,
sure.
me included. Yeah. This is the feeling of sort of inadequacies in your own ability, and the imposter syndrome. And
what's good about it? There is a good component to that, which is like it makes you be picky about what you're putting out, and that's you're only putting your best stuff as the presentation, rather than just like you think you're awesome at everything and like you can just release whatever and it's good, and it's I think being hard on yourself makes good music.
No, I can totally agree with that. Not that I make good music, but I try to at least.
If you love it, that's really all that matters. Like I think like as long as you're honest with yourself about it, like I identify when something is lazy, or identify something that if you put in enough work, it'll be better. But eventually you kind of have to get out of your own way and put stuff out, and just as long as you're honest with yourself and you love what you're doing, I think that's really the only criteria.
That's very profound. I like that. Which leads me on to the next, since we're talking like production and all of this sort of stuff. In the early, I want to say like 10s and back then, like back with the 7-string days and stuff, the production that Periphery has sort of become synonymous with the whole. I don't want to say gent because that's a no-no word.
No, it's not. You can say gent. We can get into that, but it's not a no-no word. I think like in the early days, I would make fun of it in a way where, cause like I didn't get it. Like to me, I wanted to be in a progressive metal band, and I always hoped that the band that I was in was labeled that. As I've gotten older and I've mellowed out a little bit, it's more of like it's a funny thing, because there are people who are serious about like either you're on like one side of the fence or the other, and it's like I don't care anymore. Like I'm glad that there is something about it that I like, which is like the music stands on its own enough where people will give it its own unique name. Where like progressive metal, there's so many bands that are under that umbrella, and now there's more and more gent bands that are under that under the gent umbrella, and I like that. It's like a club.
A progressive metal spanning all the way from Dream Theater to Periphery that have. It's not a lot of common denominators between the band's sound.
Yeah, but I will say that without Dream Theater, like no Periphery, all of us are huge Dream Theater fans.
Yeah. For sure, and I know you also have some family relations.
Yeah, I have a unique vantage point with that because I am related to one of the members, and it kind of like made it showed me that it's like possible that you can make it. You can do music as a career. Obviously. Those guys are just on a whole nother level, but anyways, I'm getting off on a tangent.
Yeah, John being the guitar daddy of
Yeah. When I was getting into this, I was like, oh man, like, you know, I wonder if people are going to compare me to him. And, you know, that's a bit of an arrogant way of thinking, but because, you know, I wanted to be in a progressive band, I always wondered that, and it never happened. So I'm happy that we have our own little spaces of the music industry.
No, that's great. Actually, I'm also happy for you that you don't have to like sort of feel like you live in the shadow of someone else, because
Still, a lot of people don't know that, so it's like, you know, it's not a big deal. But yeah, it is. I'm glad that didn't end up happening. Another thing about it is like, you know, any success that we have, I wouldn't want people to think like, oh, it's because, you know, his uncle's in Dream Theater. Of course, like they're successful or whatever, and that never happened either. So
for sure,
yeah.
Totally understandable.
Yeah.
It actually it was because the whole sound of Periphery, like the way that Nolly has sort of moved production in the modern metal scene, with like the bass is it's not as noticeable, but it takes up a lot of the guitar space.
Yeah.
This like without going into too much technicality here, do you feel like that's sort of become like samey now for like, because a lot of bands seem to be, I don't want to say copying because that's an ugly way to say it, but they sort of strive for that like very guitar driven and sort of sound.
I felt like the bass has always kind of gotten like pushed to the side, and that always bothered me, because it's just like, what's the point of having a separate instrumentalist who isn't getting part of the action, you know, and people, you know, it's like sort of a stereotype. It's just like, no one cares about the bassist, and I'm like, all of us were like, yeah, we need, like when a bass sounds good, and then when it's like binding with the guitar tone in that way, when it's like really huge and growly, like a lot of my riffs, they don't come to life until the bass line is written that goes along with it, whether it's a counterpoint or it's playing the same thing the guitar is playing. Like that's when those two things are finally present, that's my favorite part of writing. So I'm really glad that people are starting to really make a focus on the bass and get and kind of evolve the sound of it. And yeah, I got to give a lot of credit to Misha and Nolly for kind of developing that. There's other guys too, I know that, but you know, I'm glad there's been this kind of effort to make bass you know, just as important of an element as like vocals, guitars, and drums. So yeah, that I'm really happy about that.
I like as a guitarist, I find that I enjoy playing bass more often when tracking, because like a good bass, it's so gnarly.
Yeah,
it sounds huge.
When you think about it, like if you're looking at like on a spectrum, like the guitars are kind of like in the middle, and you have high frequencies, and the bass, you know, you're getting like the full range of the spectrum, and that's what kind of gives you know, it fills out the sound, and it's just so important. And when you like kind of ignore it, it's not, the music isn't as fun to listen to.
100% agree. When like just to go in a totally different direction here, when you're on tour like this, I know you're all far from home, and I know the boys in Crook Royals are even further from home.
Yeah, they are.
From Auckland, I think is that's a long way from home. How do you guys like unwind after a show on like a busy schedule like this?
That's a really good question, because you know, depending on when you would ask that question throughout the lifespan of the band, it would be like a completely different answer. But as we're all getting older, I think like making healthy choices, you know, is the primary focus. So, you know, not staying up too late, not drinking too much, eating right, making sure you're getting exercise, and kind of taking care of yourself better. You know, it's all of that stuff is really important to everyone. So everybody has their ways of doing that. But you know, after like the show is like winding down, and our guests have left, and we're just like on the bus kind of putzing around, it's like we'll be in our pajamas, and we'll be playing video games or reading, and you know, just normal stuff to work up that sort of like, I'm getting sleepy, you know, and then get a good night's sleep, and then wake up. Coffee is really important to everyone. We all drink a lot of coffee, and we always try to find the best place to have coffee that's nearby, which today was it was called Madden Cafe. I don't know if I'm saying that right, but right down the street, really good place. I had breakfast there too, but yeah, like eating right, exercising, having hobbies that are, kind of aren't music related, so that way you can kind of separate and take a break, have context and stuff. So yeah, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, it's like totally makes sense. You cannot live like your life as your hobby is music, but it's also your livelihood. So you sort of need to like get away from that sometimes.
It's a good point to bring up, which is like well, I mean, I can only really speak for myself, but I need to take a break from music all the time too. It's not just like every couple years. Like, it's after every tour, I probably don't pick up a guitar until it's like time to start getting ready for the next tour, unless I'm writing or unless I'm just like, screwing around. But to actually like practice and work on stuff, because I will lose the love of it if I don't take a break and like do other things, because when I come back to it, I'm just so energized and I'm like, I took a long enough break, I'm ready to go do this again. So that's really important for me in the band.
Speaking about writing, do you have like a favorite riff or like a favorite track, maybe just in total, not necessarily just on the set list now, but like from your entire catalog? Anytime I sit down to write a riff, I try to like do something that wasn't like that's like kind of like the opposite of the last thing that I wrote, just so I can like kind of explore all the things that inspire me. And it's really hard because like, depending on when you ask me, the answer is gonna be different. And I guess the one that keeps coming into my mind as I think about that right now is probably like there's this clean bridge section in the middle of the song called Garden of the Bones, and I don't even like remember writing it. I just know that it was something that I made, and it just has this sort of like vibe to it that I've never really been able to capture before, and I always think about that riff, and it just kind of hits all these like points that I'm just like, that's for me. That's like, I wish I could write more of that. I can't do that. I'm not that kind of player, but yeah, I'm really, really proud of that riff. It sort of flows naturally and it just came to you.
And interestingly enough, the guitar take that's on the record is the first and only guitar take that I did, because I played it on like a Telecaster, and it just has this like vibe. It's imperfect, and I tried retracking it for the record, and then we put it in, and the guys are just like, technically the new one is more perfect, like in terms of like locking in and stuff, but there's this sort of like imperfect vibe with the demo one, so we just left the demo one in, and that's I like that, because I like it. It's hard in this style of music to not do everything so surgically, so when you can have something that is kind of like it has like that in the moment feel, and it's imperfect, and I'm glad when we can kind of assimilate that into the finished product.
That is those small moments of almost like Dungeons and Dragons inspiration moments, if that makes any sense to you.
It does. I'm playing Baldur's Gate 3.
Great! Cool!
Yeah.
Fantastic game. Totally.
I'm doing an asshole playthrough where I'm just being mean to everyone.
Like the Dark Urge sort of thing.
I robbed the bank and killed everyone in there.
Oh no!
Yeah.
That's such a great game. When it speaking of the whole like tracks and stage presence and all of this, is there like a particular track that whenever you like sort of play it's on the on the set list that makes the audience go wild? Like all bands have these like the track. What do you feel like is the track?
Good question. Maybe on this tour it's either Dracul Gras, Satellites, Blood Eagle, and Make Total Destroy. Those are kind of like the ones that I notice that the energy kind of picks up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Make Total Destroy is a winner for all the old, so one of the old school fans, because there is an album before.
And to be perfectly transparent, I never really liked playing that song because I never thought it like sounded good. Like there was always something off about it in the in-ears. But recently, Mark redid the bass for all of the old stuff.
Okay.
And after he did that, that was what was missing, was the fact that the old bass tones don't quite cut it in our newer iterations of our sound. So, and he did that on the last tour, and it just sounds so much better. And I actually think now, finally, the song's in a place where I'm like, okay, now we're doing it justice. So
shout out to Mark.
Yeah, good job, Mark.
We love you.
Yeah.
When that track then comes on, or like one of these tracks, what's the craziest thing you've seen in the audience? Because people are animals sometimes, right? What do you think is the most crazy thing you've seen someone do?
Sometimes Spencer can get everyone riled up to where they'll do like a circle pit or like the standard stuff. Mm-hmm. I guess like songs like Blood Eagle, especially when we're playing them at the end of the night, you'll get a lot of crowd surfing in places that allow it. Mm-hmm. So, you'll just have this steady stream of people coming up to the stage and leaping off and stuff. And for us, that's as extreme as it gets, and I've never done that. So to me, that comes off as like, damn, that's risky. Like, I'd absolutely crack my head open. Like, there's no doubt about it. So I salute you. Yeah.
Salute Spencer or the audience for going wild?
Both. Spencer has a tough job because he throws down and he has to sing and scream and frontman. So like, sometimes he can't sing and we do an instrumental set and then I have to be the frontman, and the entire time I'm thinking like, damn, Spencer, you're so good at this. Like I'm not a frontman. Like I wish I didn't have to do this right now because it takes a special sort of, skill and practice and stuff, which he has a lot of experience.
There's also the whole hype man part of, not only being the vocalist, but you're also the hype man in between songs and stuff like that.
Sometimes I can be like kind of like a rigid, like stiff guy that like isn't like, it's hard for me to get comfortable in a lot of situations. So those are the nights that I drink a little bit more, so I can be like, all right, I gotta talk to the crowd. Shit, what do I say?
Does any of you get stage fright, like, still?
Yeah, I got it last night. I mean, like, it doesn't prevent me from going on or doing the job, but, like, especially, like, when it comes time to play a solo and I know it's coming up, like, I get, like, a little, like, weak in my legs, and I'm like, fuck, I hate that feeling, like, and then once I get through, like, that first, like, bar of it, I'm like, okay, I got this.
Yeah.
But, like, the moment leading up to it, like, the 30 seconds, the minute before I get to it, I'm like, god damn it, I hate playing solos. And then the nights I do nail it, I don't nail it a lot, but when the nights I do nail it, I'm like, yeah, I did it. And then I feel good about myself. But other than that, like, not too much stage fright. I mean, a lot of this stuff we've been playing for close to a decade, so eventually you get over it. But it's mostly with like the newer stuff or like playing leads and stuff that I get a little worried about.
It's funny you should say that you don't like playing solos, because I feel like that's sort of the meme online is that guitarists is like, I know no one wants to be the rhythm guitarist. And
I would love to be the rhythm guitarist,
because it's like they're so much cooler. But in Periphery, there isn't really a lead guitarist. There's such 3 guitarists.
We all do everything. Even on this last record, we all helped each other write the solos and stuff. Like, and all the songs too. Like. We'll hear things that each person is playing, and we'll be like, oh, what if you did this? And then, you sit down and track it, or you show them how to play what you're thinking. And, so, yeah, there's no lead or rhythm guitar player in the band. Everybody kind of assumes the role.
How does it work then when, is it locked as a constant where towards the end there's like this like back-to-back soloing thing? Yeah. Do you feel like you have to up the ante like towards the other guitarists?
Oh, like the guy who goes second.
Yeah.
I didn't. It's interesting you say that because like I didn't know what Misha was gonna write.
Okay.
Like I thought. I'm pretty sure it's a long time ago, but I'm pretty sure I thought I was going to be the only solo on that song, and then Misha's like, no, I want to write a solo too, and I'm like, cool, like do dueling solos. So when we put them together, it just happened to work really well, and I wasn't writing anything to kind of like. Either set myself apart or be different or like try harder. I didn't know what part was gonna go there, so it just happened to work out. Where like both solos are great for the song and they're really really cool to hear and everything, but they're not really influenced by each other. Very different.
I remember hearing that for the first time, and okay. I remember hearing that for the first time and sort of getting the fizz, like the whole build up, and the guitar part's like so beautiful and rings out towards the end, and it's one of those like Guitar Hero moments.
Oh, cool.
For me.
That's awesome. Yeah, I kind of wrote it with that in mind. Like I'm like, I want to write a solo that kind of gives me that feeling, and I basically like cobbled it together like piece by piece by piece. It wasn't like improv or anything like that. It was each section was very deliberate.
It has basically ticks all of the boxes. There's like the technical side, there's like the long melodic parts and all that, just like
it was all stuff that I was like learning at that moment. Like I wasn't ever like I never set out to be like a soloist or play solos. Like it was like I was getting like Nolly to show me licks and Misha to show me licks and stuff, and like I just kind of took all that stuff that I was learning at the time and I just incorporated it, and it happened to work out nicely. It was luck, as a consequence.
Whoa! Foreshadowing. Interesting on that point, because now you mentioned Nolly, of course. There's the whole thing with everyone in Periphery saying, well, you know, the best guitarist in the band is the bassist.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
Do you feel like that rings true? I know Nolly is
it's
not
still true to this day. Nolly's is one of the best guitar players I've ever had the good fortune to hear, and a lot of like the stuff that I try to incorporate into my playing is like stuff that Nolly plays, and the way that he plays is just like, it's very meticulous, but it doesn't lack vibe or soul, and I think that's kind of like that sweet spot, because you'll find a lot of players who are just technically proficient, there's just something kind of missing from like the vibe or like the feel, the phrasing, and you know, that's really what I love about his playing. So like a lot of what, you know, you'll hear me do is hugely inspired by stuff he does. He's like a good guy to like pay attention to when he's playing guitar.
Because I obviously have the question that we need to ask. It's like, what can we expect from Periphery in 2024?
We were just talking about that. I think we're going to try a new approach to writing. I don't know exactly what it's going to yield, and obviously I'm not going to reveal like what we talked about, but we're definitely kind of we're starting a new chapter, and we really want to try new things with writing, and so who knows what's going to come out. I'm really excited to get down to it. Everybody has their kind of ideas on how they want to approach this thing we're all talking about. I don't want to be that kind of guy that's like, oh, we're gonna like, you know, do something completely new or no one's ever done before. I'm just saying, for Periphery, it's going to be a new territory for us in terms of like writing and composing songs. So I'm really looking forward to that.
That's great. Yeah. I mean, I'm excited and have been since like every release, and I'm looking forward to seeing what you'll cook up.
Thank you.
Like in the future. And then I just want to extend like our thanks to you and to like all of the Periphery boys and everyone in Crook Royals as well, and the team that I'm guessing you have behind you to set like all of this up.
Oh yeah, without them, without the team, without the touring crew, without our management, business manager, booking agent, like we'd be nothing. We'd be vapor. So I'm really happy that we have all these people like that believe in us.
Shout out to everyone.
Yeah,
everyone.
Truly.
Right? And with that, we're just we're gonna leave it off here. Cool. And thank to everyone watching in the future, and stay mad.